Hello, everyone. This is a live Q&A about the new program Primal Trust Regulate that just launched this week, or any other questions that you have about Primal Trust, including we have a whole new platform that just completely got revamped and reorganized. And obviously Regulate just launched, and that's all new, something I've been working on for a few years. And so I am happy to have anyone here who would love to ask a question. The time is yours. So either type, if you don't want to speak, you can type in the chat box or you can raise your hand. There's a reaction sign to raise your hand, or just come on camera and raise your hand. There's, uh, just a handful of people here. So yeah, I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have. And if nobody has a question, I'll just talk for a little bit. Anybody have any burning questions? Wanting to know? Otherwise, I will just chat. So, okay, while you're deciding what your questions are, first of all, who here has not been part of any of my programs before? Put a 1 in the chat box so I know. Okay, Gail, you're new. Anybody else? I know a couple of you have taken my class. Can you just put a 1? Michelle's new. All right, maybe the others aren't getting to the chat box. Well, okay, a few new people. So for those of you who are older and have been part of Primal Trust, Regulate, this program is completely new. It's something I've been working on for 3 years. I've been studying the effects of my current programs. I've been studying what's been going on with clients for the last few years, and I used the current programs that I've had as sort of a beta test of what methods, what tools work best, and what order tools should be introduced into based on client responses, based on just other research I've done. And so Regulate is one of the first programs to combine brain retraining, vagus nerve toning, somatics, trauma, even trauma attachment repair, breath work. And it was based on some of the findings I had with my original course in 2019 that I launched 3 years ago that combined those things. But that original course was never meant to be a standalone course. It was just a toolkit. It was called Creating Calm. And it was a toolkit that I brought in to help with my advanced mentorship. I found that a lot of people ended up joining Primal Trust for my mentorship who were not ready for it. That's one of the learnings that I've had. It was always meant to be an advanced process. People joined Primal Trust and they really didn't have the nervous system capacity for it. So I really spent a lot of time creating a full program that's great for a novice, somebody who's never done any type of neural retraining, or even for a healthcare provider. So I've got like the full range entering this new program. So far, the reviews are amazing and outstanding. And the other thing that I've done is I've spent the last 4 months completely redesigning my platform, which hosts all of the courses and the community events, because Primal Trust is multifaceted, meaning it's not just a course that you enter into, it's an entire community, it's an entire ecosystem where we have got live classes, other people teaching live classes. I've got a huge video library. And so I've had to find a way to fit all of that in, but in a very sequential way. And so I can show you guys the new platform at some point here today if you'd like to see that. Otherwise, I'm going to pause. Does anyone have a question yet about Regulate, about the new program, if it's right for them, what's involved in it? I'd love to answer any questions. Unless you want me to keep talking, I can always keep talking, but this is your time. Or anything about your situation, wondering if Regulate is right for you. Any concerns?
I'll ask
Dr. Cat, I have a question.
of course, two people at
I'm
once.
sorry.
Wait, just a sec. Grace,
ahead.
you're second, and Gail, you're first.
Okay.
Oh,
All right,
I knew you'd say that, Dr. Cat.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Gail.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Of course, we just both went at the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I looked into your class like a while back, and I'm just a little, at that time, you're like, I'm just revamping my whole website, and then I just get more information from you over time, and I keep getting drawn in, and then I don't really know what's holding me back from signing up, except for that I don't know if anybody else feels like this. I just feel kind of like a little overwhelmed, like between so Primal Trust is part of Regulate, is that right?
Primal Trust is the whole umbrella. Primal
Okay.
Trust, this is the Primal Trust process. Good question. In the process, we have a level 1 program, which is Regulate. That's the new program. We have a level 2 program called the Mentorship. People tend to nickname that Primal Trust, but that's a level 2 advanced process. And then we have a level 3, which is this ongoing community where there's all sorts of teaching about parenting, relationships, getting back to work. That's kind of like an ongoing thing, but the whole umbrella is the Primal Trust process. So this would be Primal Trust Regulate, Primal Trust Mentorship, Primal Trust Ongoing Community. And so what I've done is I've helped people come in and they just come into Regulate, the level 1 process. You go through Regulate, I would try to spend 2 to 4 months on Regulate. It's about 8 modules. Some of the modules are longer than others, and it's a complete process. It's not just brain retraining. It is top down, bottom up. It's the whole shebang. And so I really recommend you spend 2 to 4 months on that level 1 process. Then if you feel called to, you can go through level 2, which is a deeper dive mentorship, especially for those who have a lot of emotional wounding, relationship issues, trauma. That's really what's involved in the level 2, but you need a good amount of nervous system capacity and ideally your symptoms to be calmed down to go through that process of working on the core emotional issues that were there in the first place. A lot of people don't need to do that. They do level 1, they get their brain, their nervous system, regulated, they're good to go. They're back out in life. So that also happens as well. Any other questions about kind of the process or the overwhelm or where you start? I'm totally happy to try to help explain.
I have a question. I have the question, Dr. Cat. Is when you're going to be explaining this program again, is there going to be a big emphasis on that, the C part, the visualizations, or I think I heard you say somewhere that you have some other solution for the visualizations.
Yeah.
If people aren't into it.
Yeah, I want to get to that. I just want to make sure Gail, before I move on, that's okay. One more. I want to make sure that Gail has an understanding so she knows what she's coming in. So there's this whole community, but it's a process. And in fact, we have an onboarding process. So you'll come in, you go to a live onboarding call. They'll be like, this is exactly how you set up. If you want to be involved in a study group, which is free, it's part of our program. Here's how you do that. Here's where your modules are. Here's where the forum is. And so we have a whole, this onboarding process just started this week because it's a big platform. So you're going to come in, you'll be onboarded, and you'll be directed every step of the way.
Okay.
And, some people come in bit by bit. They'll come in for a month. They'll take that month and learn, and then they'll go work on it, and then they can come back. And that's always an option too. But really the overwhelm piece, we're trying to help you understand that this is a multifaceted journey. It's not just about brain retraining. That's just, 80% of my clients come from brain retraining programs because typically that isn't enough for long-term chronic illness. But the process does need to be streamlined and simplified. So for you, you'd come in, you'd probably go to an onboarding call or watch an onboarding recording and just start working through the modules of Regulate and kind of ignore the rest of it until you get through those first couple of months. Like, yes, that's there, but it's not applicable right now. So that's what we're trying to do, is kind of put the blinders on, come in and do Regulate, then expand into maybe level 2 if that feels appropriate.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's why I hesitated, because there's so much information and I was like, oh my gosh, it feels almost like I can't sign up until I'm 100% all in.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just dibble and dabble in it, and I did DNRS and actually just did the revamped 2.0 just because I fell off the wagon with it. And I think they improved it a lot, but it's just not, there's so many gaps in it for me. It's just not enough. for the biggest one being like my marriage and my husband just being a huge pop for me, a huge trigger for me staying in that fight, flight, or freeze. And I feel like DNRS does not really address the relationship component and how that can be a driving factor in being so dysregulated.
Yeah.
And so, and the trauma piece as well. And so that's why I've been pulled more towards your program. So I already know that it's totally, you don't need to, I personally don't need to hear the differences between, say, DNRS and what you and your program, because I understand that they're very different. I just was hesitant because I started DNRS and then I had a bit of a health crisis and I stopped and I never got back. And I was like, well, I don't want to start now, bounce to another program and start that one and stop. And because that's not actually normally the way that I am. I'm usually pretty much good with commitments, but yeah, so there's just this anxiety about starting and not being able to honor the commitment that I'm making.
One of the things that I think has helped the people in my program the most are these study group pods that we encourage you to join. There's something about having a cohort that helps people ride those bumps and stay committed because they know they're not in it alone. And so that's something I would recommend looking into. It's been just so enriching for people, and their outcomes with those that do these little cohorts, it's all included. It's so much higher than those that are on this journey alone that I found.
So that's included in the like DNRS where you have to pay for the
everything, all the live coaching, everything. Like I don't do any tiered processes, and it's all there. It's too confusing. I don't want to have to take the time to figure that out. So just throw it in. Paul says the study groups in the forum have been exceptional. It's really what sets this program, I think, apart, is that the community and the graduates are so involved in helping the newer people through this process and helping teach them how to like set up these groups to take themselves through it. It's really nice. It helps me out a lot.
How big are the groups generally?
You can just depend. I mean, you can kind of make some of them are like 15, some are 4, it just sort of depends on what you need, and people have different preferences. So yeah. Thank you for your question. I think it's a common one. Primal Trust, the downside of what I've created in such a short time is that it's a tremendous amount of material. It's like the universe just blew up with Primal Trust, and it was meant originally to be an advanced mentorship for those that had already went through brain retraining. And then it went into all of these other things that are just beautiful, but people coming in, it's like, whoa, where do I start? And so that's why we've taken this process of kind of putting the blinders on and creating a course, a program, Regulate, that's just for that beginning process, but it's also super comprehensive. It's not a watered down, simple little toolkit. And you just focus on Regulate. I mean, I'm not even going to be talking about level 2 or level 3 for a while. I'm just getting everybody in Regulate. This is what we're doing. I even have all the other levels coming back to Regulate. We're all doing level 1 together and focusing on that. So yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, Gail, before I move on?
No, thank you.
Okay. Gail, good question. Or Grace, you asked, is there more than just visualization that can be done for brain retraining? Yes. I've actually, in Regulate is so much more than brain retraining. Like, I don't even talk about brain retraining until halfway through the program. Seriously. So you're getting a lot in addition to brain retraining. Brain retraining, is important, but the ways that you do it don't always have to be visualization. So in Regulate, I present 5 different ways of doing brain retraining. You can change them around daily. You can do one, you can do all, because I've studied the different ways that people's brains work, and not all of them are highly visual. So, it is just one of those things that I think a lot of programs are like, here's how you do the brain retraining practice. And that works for a certain number of people, but it doesn't work for everyone. So you are given other ways, but you're also given a lot of other strategies for nervous system work. And if for some reason brain retraining just isn't your thing, you can just keep the teachings in mind and the principles in mind and work on the other things, and know that you are regulating your nervous system. And I think that you'll find brain retraining, look, it's just about redirecting the way that your limbic system is focusing on your life. There's a lot of ways of doing that. It doesn't
Yes.
need to be visualization. People have brain retrained throughout history without doing, brain retraining programs.
I've been successful with your program and I was not using the brain retraining. I was just trying to, the visualizations. I was just trying to, what you always say, the underpinnings are to get yourself into a state of calm. However you were able to do that, you've got to be calm. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're all worried, oh, I've got to do this, that, or the other, and am I doing it right? That defeats the whole purpose. And I realized that deeper into the program, although you had mentioned it many times. Yeah. And you're saying, don't stress, take it easy. But I did not understand the true meaning of that.
Yeah. The way I've taught Regulate, I'm actually teaching you guys the overarching principles so that you could literally create your own program if you wanted to. I'm not just like, here's the tool. You're going to understand the why, the how it works together. And you might come up with a different strategy than I've taught you, something that you just feel inspired to. So I'm really wanting to empower you guys as neuroscience specialists so that you can do, whatever it is that you want to do with that material. So good question.
That's good. It got me out of being bedbound.
Great. Well, let's keep it going.
That's what I'm trying to do. So now I'm able to stay up, but I'm being anxious, and there are other underpinnings there while I'm not laying in bed.
One of the things you'll learn about in Regulate is that it's very normal as we start getting more energy and capacity. Going from bedbound to function is we're going to go through an anxiety stage, a more anxious stage, a more sympathetic stage. You're going to learn exactly why and how to go through that and Regulate. So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, Janaki, can you tell me how to pronounce your name? I'm sorry.
It's Janaki.
Janaki, hello.
Hi. First of all, it's really nice to meet you. I thought this would be one of those things where, there are like 100 people and, so I was just going to listen, but I just love your program. I'm so grateful to have it. I did it for a couple of months this summer. And
the earlier program, the first, not Regular, because it wasn't out yet. Okay.
Right.
So you did my toolkit. Okay. Yeah.
I did the level 1, and I think I probably tried to do it too fast. I did DNRS about 10 years ago, and but I knew, and I saw enough improvements so that I knew there was something to it. But, as you've helped me to understand more why that didn't really work for me. And when I saw, I saw a couple of your videos before I joined, and I just knew that this, what you were doing was putting it all together, and, the missing pieces were there. So I was I'm very excited about it. I think I did it a little too fast, tried to do too much at once. And hearing you say now that
which wheel does it sound like that sound's coming from?
Hold on just a second. Let me
left or right?
People not muted. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So hearing you say, to spend at least a month or 2 on the Regulate and level 1,
at least 2 to 4 months on
2 to 4, right?
Yeah. And I'll just say that the first program, Creating Calm, I think this was really misunderstood. It was called a toolkit. It was always meant to be really a toolkit for those who already have experience. It was never meant to be a standalone program. And that is why I think a lot of people had, it was just a lot, and they didn't have that basic understanding of how to slowly implement the toolkit. Great
Yeah.
tools, but doing them all at once, too much for the nervous system. And so Regulate's
Yeah.
going to slowly, incrementally build your capacity to be doing the tools. So
I
it's a very
see.
different process.
I see. Yeah, I've been going through a dip, and I think you know, that may be the answer for me, to go back and, you know, spend more time with the Regulate program.
Mm-hmm. Hold on just a sec. I have an emergency in the chat box. Somebody says,
Okay.
Luis, if you are here, I just put the correct link into the chat box. I guess this is why a lot of people aren't here. I guess the email didn't go out to the right list. Interesting. I don't know. Okay, so I just put in the chat box, Luis, if you can help me out with that. Sorry, people are trying to get in, apparently. Anyway, sorry. Back to you.
So, yeah, I've been dealing with, you know, stuff it's been decades, and pretty severe. So, you know, I was doing better, and I was pretty excited about that in the first month of doing your program. And then, you know, I've had a dip going on for over a month now. I'm trying to be imperturbable about it, but
yeah.
I'm not always. So yeah, I just I'm wanting to sign back up. Another thing that you said about doing the study groups and, you know, having a cohort, that I was missing that because I had trouble with getting the Signal app downloaded, and so I'm going to rejoin. My plan is to rejoin when I have the Signal app, when I have a setup that I can do that. Because I think that, as you said, that's a really important part of the program.
So what she's referring to is the way our study groups communicate with each other is typically over a Signal app where they put in the Zoom link and then you can show up. But I want to say, Janeki, that a lot of people don't have the Signal app, and there is a way where we can manually email you the Zoom link for your study group. So don't let that be a deterrent. There's just a process.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we can do that. The other thing is that you can also put Signal onto your desktop computer. If I understand that correctly, I have Signal on my computer, so that might be another option for you. But there are a few people who don't have computer access in that way, and so or Signal app access to communicate with study groups. Again, this will all be discussed in the onboarding section, so don't let this overwhelm anybody, but it's you can get your Zoom link emailed to you if needed. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. What other questions did I have? There was something else. Gail has a question in the chat box. Okay. Do you still teach any part of the programs yourself, or are you no longer teaching? So I am going to be on live every week for the next few months. Basically, all the modules, yes, all the modules are recorded. They're set. I'd like for you to watch the module and then show up to the live class. And what I will do is I will kind of teach a live summary or things that might be missed or things that people have questions about. And then I'm going to be open for discussion, much like this. So in the past, I would teach the exact same thing live as was recorded. And I realized at that time, it wasn't spent the best that it could be. I'd rather be actually communicating with you than just teaching the same material. So I'm going to be I'll be there every week. In addition to me, we have another level 1 class every week called a level 1 implementation class, with one of my mentors. Her name is Tammy Metz. She's a physical therapist. She's going to be there to help you implement and integrate the material for that week as well. So you'll have basically 2 classes a week to help with the process of the course and integration. In addition, we have like daily little drop-in classes and obviously the study groups and things like that. So I hope that answers your question, Gail. Any other questions? Not, I can show you guys a little brief preview of inside of the membership so you can kind of see how it's laid out if you're interested. Do a screen share and do that. Does anyone else have a question? Any hands up? No? Okay. Oh, is one-on-one coaching available? Yes, we have a whole bunch of mentors. Let me show you. Let me just show you. We're going inside the community. You can kind of see what the new process looks like. Okay. All right. So this is the home page. When you sign in, you're going to end up here. And over here on the left is where your navigation is. So we have a home page. On the home page, right here, it's going to say the basics of what's inside the community. You've got level 1 regulate, the level 2 mentorship, level 3 ongoing teachings, live classes every week, the video library, which is all sorts of recordings about neuroplasticity and healing, and study groups. And then right here, you can see, hold on, I'm going to mute the chat box. If somebody isn't muted, let's go ahead and mute yourself so that we can see. Okay. So as you can see, we have, you just come right in and you can push start here with level 1. That will literally take you right to the Regulate program. So it's just that simple. Now we also have an onboarding section so that you can find out when the next onboarding meeting is. And below that on the homepage is the calendar. Look how many classes we have in 1 week that you can go to. These are literally classes to help you regulate your nervous system. These are all optional and included in the membership, all there to help you out. My next live Regulate class will be on Tuesday, November 1st at 10 a.m. So, okay. There's still somebody that needs to mute themselves. There's a lot of background noise. I don't know who it is. All right. So below the live class, we have our calendar Zoom link, and then other little places you can click to learn more. So that's the home page. We have a page that talks even more about the live classes every week. Our Academy section is, if you click that, you're going to see where all your main courses are, your level 1, your level 2. I'm sorry, I'm going to try to mute. There's a lot of background noise. I don't know how to do it while I'm screen sharing. Okay, here it is. I'm trying to find who's noisy in here. Okay, there we go. Everybody's muted. Okay, so your Academy section is where all your courses are. The community section over here on the left, this is where you'll have a video library, all sorts of recordings. Affinity groups, that's something you'll learn about later for level 2, 3. These are small groups that meet up on specific topics like parenting, relationships, etc. I've got a resources section, and again, a whole page for onboarding. So when you join, you could go right to the onboarding page. These are when our next onboarding live sessions are to help you out. There's also a recording you can watch if you can't make the live sessions. And we have information about study groups. Again, you'll get all of that in onboarding. Now, mentoring, yes, we have one-on-one mentors. We have a whole team. So we've got 6 mentors other than me. You can sign up with any of them here. The cool thing about our one-on-one mentoring team is they all offer a free initial consult to just, tell them about your situation. And we also right now have a $35 off coupon for any paid session. And the sessions really range. I mean, they're all different prices. I think they range anywhere from $60 to a session to $175 a session. So it just depends on the mentor and what they're offering. And then we have a forum section. We actually have several forums. We have a level 1 forum, so it's just going to talk about Regulate, a level 2 forum that's going to talk about the mentorship, and we have other sub forums. So that's how our community that's so vast is divided up. But when you come in, you're just going to come right here and click start with level 1. Kind of ignore the rest of this stuff and go into onboarding. That's all I'd like you to start with. Level 1 will take you right to the Regulate course that is streaming. And these are all the modules that are dripped weekly. We've dripped the first 2 already. So that's a little tour of inside. I hope that gives a little visual of what's here. So come in, start with Regulate, start with onboarding. That's how this works. Any questions? We've got a few new people that just popped in while I was here, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have. So please raise your hand or write it in the chat box. Is the one-on-one coaching the only thing that costs additional money? Yes, everything is included. One-on-one coaching, they're their own people. They have their own contracts, so they have their own. They charge money, obviously, for the one-on-one coaching, but it's I'd say it's cheaper than most of the competitive programs out there. The whole platform is part of your membership. I really wanted to make it simple and easy. I know that a lot of competitive programs charge like $1,000 to $2,000 for the live group calls. I'm definitely not doing that. I'm just showing up and doing them. And also, so are all of my mentors available. Like I said, it's just, I wanted to create a platform that is all of the resources I wanted when I was sick. Daily help, live help. Every day we've got live help for you in the form of a class or a forum. I wanted to have the whole journey mapped out for me of like, I'm super sick now. How do I get from super sick to well? The whole process is mapped out in our level 1, 2, 3 process. And yeah, that's been my vision, and it's happening. Primal Trust has been just exploding because of that. I'd say the downside is that Regulate wasn't done earlier. And so Primal Trust was a little overwhelming for people early on because it was more of an advanced program before Regulate came out. So any other questions? I see a couple other new people just popped in. Happy to answer any other questions. Here comes a whole bunch of people that missed the email. Sorry, guys, those of you who are late. I know that the email system. Whoa, hold on. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Any other questions? You guys, I'm here to help you out. So please. Well, do you know what is in Regulate? Do you know that we have the introductory module free up on my website? If you go to primaltrust.org and you go look at the Regulate description, you can also get the introductory module for free and check that out. Jennifer asks, is there any small group coaching options? It's so interesting you asked. Just an hour before this call, one of my mentors said that she was going to try to offer a small group coaching session, but that would be private. That would be an additional thing. Again, that's the mentor thing. What we do have for small group coaching is you'll have live classes with me. We're also going to have weekly integration classes. Usually those classes range between 18 and 30 people. But in addition to that are the study groups. And the study groups, there are some that are going to be probably Primal Trust grads in most of these study groups. So, they're going to help you through this process. So in that way, the study groups kind of become their own little small group coaching, and that's all free. It's all part of it. We organize you guys into study groups so that you can go through this together. So there's, my live coaching, there's live integration class lessons, and there's the study group. So between those 3 options, hopefully you'll get help. And then, like I said, one of the mentors is going to start some small group coaching with her own thing. So that'll be available. Any other questions?
Janeke has her hand up.
Oh, Janeke, is your hand still up from before, or is it because or do you still have a question? Because I didn't lower your hand from before.
Yeah, it's actually was still up from before.
Oh, okay.
But I do have a question. What would you say is the main difference between the previous level 1 program and the new Regulate program?
That is completely different.
Okay.
Creating Calm, my first level 1, I called it level 1 because it was a toolkit. It was literally a list of tools and here's why you use them. It was never a complete program. Creating Calm, I think, was a total of like 4 hours of instruction. Regulate is 4 times that amount, and it's a whole process. Like, you don't even start using the tools until a few modules in. There's a whole learning to prepare your nervous system. So it's just it's so not even comparable. My Regulate, yeah, like I said, I worked on creating it for 3 years. Creating Calm, I created in 2 weeks. So there's the difference.
Okay.
Different program. I mean, Regulate is, even if you've done my level 2, Regulate is night and day. I've spent more time on Regulate than anything I've ever created, and it shows in the program. So it's really different. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Michelle asked, do the study groups focus on module lessons? Yes. So the way the study groups are meant to meet is they're meant to meet and focus on one specific module at a time. Sometimes they'll meet for a couple weeks per module and move through things incrementally. So that's how they are set up. Good question. Any other concerns, like any other things that are coming up for you about Primal Trust, things you've heard, any concerns that I can speak to? I'd be happy to do that. You can ask me anything. Grace, yeah. Whoops, here, I'm going to unmute you. Yeah, if you can unmute yourself, actually, there you go.
Will there be like a written transcript of your, because in the past you've had a bit of a handbook type of thing, so we can actually read the material?
Yeah.
Instead of just watching it, is there something similar?
So I have workbooks for each module, and in each workbook per module, you'll get a summary of the module and handouts of the specific tools and descriptions of that to download. So you'll have that. You'll also have downloadable audio guide throughs of like the brain retraining processes and things like that. I don't have the full transcript because I didn't create it off a transcript. At some point I could probably transcribe it, but I would probably sell it as a standalone course if I actually gave out the transcript. So yeah.
Well, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I think the workbooks they're way more concise than my old workbooks were. They're really well done. And I think they'll help guide you through the process. So yeah, good question. Couple questions in the chat box. How are the study groups organized? So the study groups are initially organized by the mentors in the onboarding meetings. And once they're organized, then they become a peer-led process. However, I will say that a lot of people joining these study groups are my graduates. So likely, I would say in most study groups, you're going to have Primal Trust graduates to help with that process, because I have about 600 and plus graduates in this course that are now going to come back and do the study group. So maybe even more. So you'll have a little help that way. And we're here every step of the way to make sure the study groups get going correctly. They're organized based on like location and time zone. So there's multiple time zones that you can join into. And then if you join one and you're like, I'd actually want to meet at this time, who wants to join me? You guys can always split off and create subgroups. So yeah, the Q&As are recorded. Yes. The integration sessions will not be recorded because we want those to be a little more intimate, where people are feel like they can ask about anything. And what are integration sessions? Well, this is the first time we've done them. So they're in process of what they're going to be will unfold. But I see these, so we've got live Q&As with me, and we've got live integration sessions with Tammy Metz, who's a physical therapist. I see the integration sessions of like helping you through what that material is and how do you implement that in your life? What's coming up for you as you work through the tools? Are you having challenges using the tools? So I see it as a more intimate process. So we're not going to be recording that because I want people to feel totally free to ask what's hard for them and to have somebody helping to hold space. If we get too many people in those integration sessions, we may add more classes. We're just going to see how popular they are and see how it goes. Okay, how much time do you recommend putting in every day with the course? So I recommend that you do not go through the course more than one module a week at most, at the quickest. Meaning each module is probably between 1 and 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on the module. So in that week, I would recommend watching, maybe a couple nights where you're watching an hour or two. If you're going to do it in 1 week, or maybe you split it up into 2 weeks. I really want you to take your time and digest the material. Now, the actual practices, the tools, initially, there's not a lot of time of tool practice. I'm actually helping you get your nervous system aware and understanding. But once the tool practice comes around module 3, you'll start with 5 to 15 minutes a day of particular vagal toning practices. And then you're going to add to that time throughout the course. You'll add a little bit more time when we start to integrate some brain retraining and a little more time when we integrate somatics. By the very end of the course, so meaning, between 8 and 16 weeks later, depending on how much you go through it, I recommend up to an hour to an hour and a half a day total. Now, that being said, people are like, that's so much time. When you have learned how to make these tools a lifestyle, they no longer become tools. They're things you do that kind of add up to that amount of time. It might be 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes, around noon, and another 15 minutes to a half an hour later, depending on how you actually implement these tools. It'll make more sense when you go through Regulate. But what I want to tell you is that my practice right now, I spend an hour and a half every day on my self-care. I love that time. I love it so much. It is not a tool. It's not a to-do. It's like the time that is my sacred time for me. And honestly, the whole thing I learned about chronic illness is that I wanted to spend time with myself. I wanted to spend time deep in my body and spend time dreaming about what I love and connecting to the earth, connecting to my family. So these tools actually are a way of repatterning how you live. So they start out as tools and then they become a lifestyle. They become a sacred way of becoming present with yourself that helps to keep your nervous system healthy. So over time, I hope that your concept of what they are shifts for you. Yeah. Someone asked how you join an integration session. All of our live classes are on our calendar. I'm going to just show you one more time. It's just a live class that you join through a Zoom link. And I'm just going to help you see how you do that one more time so it's easy. Again, you'll get all of this information in our new onboarding section. So when you sign into Primal Trust, you'll come into the home page. And when you go down in this calendar, this calendar shows you all the classes coming up. So next week, for example, on Tuesday, I've got my live Q&A for Regulate. And on Wednesday, you'll see an integration class in the evening. Sometimes these classes are in the evening, sometimes in the morning, just depends on the week. So you would just literally drop down to the Zoom link and click on it and you can enter through there. So all of the live classes, you just look at the calendar, click the Zoom link and enter. Hopefully that makes sense. Hold on. Okay. Welcome everybody who's come in late. I know there was some issues with the live Q&A Zoom link. Sorry about that. For those of you who've come in late and maybe didn't get to ask questions, please feel free. I'm here for any questions that you might have, even if I've already answered them before, or any new questions. Also, any burning concerns about doing Primal Trust, any concerns about doing Regulate. I'm happy to clear up anything, any rumors to talk about. This program, I hope, will become the gold standard for brain body neural retraining. I think that there is nothing out there like it. In fact, I was just presenting to a group of functional medicine doctors this morning and teaching them how Regulate, the way I've designed it, is I've designed it to really focus on improving your cellular health. So in other words, this program isn't just about retraining your brain and your nervous system. It's literally about teaching you how all of this idea around brain retraining translates all the way down into the cellular level, so that you know what you're doing is actually impacting the function of your mitochondria. You know what you're doing is impacting the function of your immune system and all of these sort of things. And having that understanding, having that science understood, so that you can also talk with your practitioners with more understanding and work together with them. And my hope is that this program will create a bridge with the medical system and with functional medicine as well, where they'll understand that every person that they are treating for chronic illness probably needs to be in some type of brain body neural retraining program, because it's only going to help their tools. It's only going to help the medicine that, if you're choosing to do that route, to actually, work better. So, I've got big plans for Primal Trust. And honestly, I think you won't be, I really don't think you'll be disappointed. Regulate is truly one of a kind. Someone says, have you sent us, or can we access an overview of the modules? On my website, I go through an overview of all of the modules and what they have in them. Let me see if I can just pull that up. You can also take, let me just pull that up for you guys. I'll screen share. You can also take the introductory module for free. Is this one it? Okay, wrong one. Okay. Hopefully I am sharing. Okay, so I'm just on my website right now. I'm under the Regulate section right here. So if you scroll down under course details, I give a general detail, and then right here off to the left, you're going to see what all the modules are, and all of the lessons inside of the modules. You can click right through. You can see everything right on the website of what is in the modules. Okay, so just going to the website, and then if you want to sign up for the intro course for free, it's right there. So you can unlock that and check that out as well. Okay. Would this help with someone with dysautonomia? Yes, I think so. I had dysautonomia very badly, and TBI and trauma. So I had a history of concussion, bad history of dysautonomia, and if you know my story, a lot of trauma. Yes. I created the program for me. I had all of those things. So yes, I think it will help. Good question though. Someone says, I'm trying to do the 5 pillars of DNRS and start your program. Should I pretty much stop doing them and focus on your program, or do the 2 programs complement each other? That is such a good question. DNRS is a wonderful brain retraining program. Brain retraining encompasses 1/8 of Regulate, meaning I've got 8 modules in Regulate. DNRS is one piece of the pie. And I explain brain retraining a little differently, but it's still generally the same idea. So you can continue with that piece of the pie, whether that's DNRS or my method or another program, and it's going to be just fine. And I think that you'll find the other pieces of the pie that I bring in are going to make that DNRS piece make so much more sense. I'd say 80% of my members come from DNRS, and I help them with the gaps of understanding. So yes, you can continue that. There's one pillar that I do a little differently. The way that I, quote, catch pops, I do it differently. I do a bit more of a somatic presencing practice. And you'll learn about that right away in module 1 of Regulate, why I do it differently and how it's different. So that's the only thing that I would say that I have a slight disagreement with, is what to do when you're noticing that you are ruminating and having negative thoughts. And I'll explain more of that if you want, or you can learn about it in the program. That's a good question. Any other questions? This is a quiet group here. I'm happy to keep talking, but I need to know what you want me to talk about.
Kat, is the beginning of the program more science-based? In other words, is trying to make us truly understand and believe in the fact that it is our dysregulated nervous system that's causing all of the symptoms, irrespective of what that symptom is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll find that the first three modules, really, I give a really deep understanding of what I'd call psycho-immunoneurology, the psychology, the immune system, and the neurology, because my goal, hold on, let me mute this. There's lots of noise today. Hold on, mute. Okay, my goal is that your rational mind is so convinced in nervous system regulation being the most direct path you have in influencing your mitochondria and cellular health, that any resistance that might pop up, you can just override it because you know why this work is needed and you know how to do it in a way that works for your nervous system. You'll understand why your nervous system might be having a resistance or a backlash with some of the processes, and that way you can work around it, because I see a lot of people go into nervous system regulation and brain retraining, and they often will sometimes feel worse before better, and they freak out and they think the tool was the problem, and it wasn't. They don't understand what the body is doing when it's going through a healing process, that we have a sympathetic spike. We sometimes have a detox reaction. We have immune things, start getting activated, and it's not the tool at all. In fact, they're starting to shift the way their nervous system is functioning. Cortisol is shifting. You're going through adrenaline withdrawal, and it doesn't feel good. And so when you get the whole understanding of the journey from the beginning, I think your ability to implement the tools and stick with them is so much greater. So,
yes. What about the embodiment part, the somatic part? Is it more staying with our emotion and being willing to accept the fact that it's there in that moment?
Yeah. So you'll work into it. Somatics is module 5. And the way I have seen people work through the process of staying with it is at first we stay with it with certain tools, and eventually we stay with it in a different way. We stay with it with a more conscious embodiment, but that progression is something that takes time. And so I teach you how to become present right away. In module 1, you're going to start working on somatics, even though you don't realize it. But we're going to be doing it very incrementally. Like I said, I studied all of these tools. I see where people get messed up with them. I see what starts, triggering people. I see what people can't do somatics right away. And so I'm really trying to create a full streamlined process where it's, woven together without you realizing it. And by the end, you're doing it all.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Karina, hello.
Hi, this program sounds wonderful. I'm so excited. Yeah, and it's the perfect, I think, going to be the perfect boost to my structure that I need, it sounds like. Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure.
And I was wondering, so I'm happy to hear you talk about like the sympathetic spikes and all of those kinds of things that happen during the process. And I have kind of a block that's come up over the last year and a half. So I've been brain retraining for 4 years, and I was incremental training with fragrances and ended up triggering over the last year and a half what appears to be an autoimmune disease. And and so that has created this block of like, well, they must be really dangerous because this has happened as a result of my contact with them. So I don't know. Yeah, that I don't really know what I'm asking, but if you can speak to that, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, sometimes in the process of retraining and exposure training, especially, if certain parts of our nervous system we're not in a stable enough place to actually be doing that exposure, it can be re-traumatizing.
Mm.
And what I've seen with some people is sometimes when they don't have enough nervous system capacity to do that retraining, which is why I don't do exposure training until halfway through the program. And even that, you're learning how to become aware if you're ready to do that kind of thing. What I've seen sometimes with exposure training, like chemical sense, et cetera, is that it can, for some people, throw them into like a type of mast cell reaction or histamine reaction, or, you know, another type of weird skin reaction. I've seen that happen because they went into the exposure training without enough actually stability to be doing it, and without enough primal trust, without enough limbic settling in the first place. And so that's why I'm not just rushing you into brain retraining to reassociate and go. Some people can totally do it. Some people right away go on brain retraining, but others I find need to have a real understanding of where their nervous system is at. And I think that in your experience, had you had a real clear understanding of your polyvagal system, real awareness of your nervous system, likely in that retraining, you would have sensed that you were already in a sympathetic spike and then introducing something to it on top of it. That's my guess. I can't know, but that's what I see is that.
Yeah, it was right around the time when a loved one had passed away. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
would make sense.
Yeah. So there you are, you're associating sense. So, you know, you just, that's why in this Regulate program, it truly, I want you all to be masters of regulation and neuroplasticity so that you know when you should be doing which thing. That's the goal, that I'm not, you know, the guru here, that you are, I'm teaching you everything I possibly can about these patterns and how to put them together so that you know when you should be doing exposure training. You can feel in your nervous system, I'm ready for that. You know when you're ready to go in deeper with somatics and do trauma healing and when you're not. So that would be how I'd answer that.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like more stability. Forget the incremental training for now.
Yeah. You need to build some nervous system capacity, and then work on reassociating, because obviously it's a trauma. It's embedded with trauma at this point. So yeah.
Okay, so undoing that is really just overall getting more stability.
Getting more nervous system capacity for stress in general, for emotions to come through in general, and then, you know, your likelihood, you know, of handling exposures will increase.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Michelle.
I'm going to try to communicate this. Thank you so much, everybody, and Dr. Kat. I appreciate that, instead of trying to write it in the chat.
Sure.
So I started DNRS, I think December of last year, and I did it type A. Very type A. I had a very regimented program for 5 months, and I didn't miss a day. And I did it the hour, I did tapping, I did meditation, I did it just like I did everything else before this experience. So in that, sorry, the dogs are out of control. So in that experience, I developed extreme insomnia for the last 7 months. And I still did the routine in the 7 months, right? Because of the, I'm not saying anything with the NRS, but the fear of not doing those, you know, 4, you know what I mean? For whatever. Okay. So I stopped for 2 months, started doing DNRS, sort of a more calm way. I don't do it that same way. And I finally, you know, integrated some somatics the last 2 months, 3 months, and I slept for 4 nights in a row. So in your program with the Regulate and the modules and this insomnia, like, is that not saying a specific symptom, is that sort of a stress response to what I was trying to do, like the last person was talking about, the incremental training?
It's a really good question. And I actually address this a lot through Regulate. So what you're going to learn in the Regulate program is that when you start to retrain your nervous system, it's very common to go through something known as sympathetic activation, even though you are doing things to calm yourself. For some people, sympathetic activation will become a period of insomnia. It was for me. And I explain why in the Regulate program. I'm not going to go into all of it, but in a nutshell, when your nervous system has been in a really intense stress response, we tend to be in something known as dorsal vagal shutdown, meaning that our body is just in protection mode. And then what happens is often people will enter a program like DNRS or like other somatic program or vagus nerve retraining program, and they start to target the nervous system that's been in a shutdown response. And in that targeting, it's a good thing. It starts to cause flexibility in the nervous system. But what happens with the nervous system is that there is a pathway to healing that it has to go through. You go from shutdown through sympathetic activation and then into something known as ventral vagal safety. This is called riding the polyvagal wave. So likely with you, you did DNRS, you started exercising your limbic system, and that unlocks actually some of your life force. But for some people, it moves into insomnia or anxiety or sometimes anger and aggression as you start to unlock that pent up energy. And then what happens is people are like, oh no, this tool is not working. This tool is making me worse, or whatever they're doing, and they stop it. So I teach people in Regulate to expect that you're going to have to possibly go through that sympathetic spike. And in that expectation, there's this relaxation of like, oh, I've just got more energy running through my system. And it's okay that I didn't sleep as much last night. In that relaxation, in that trust, you move through that stage a lot quicker rather than getting caught in it for months like you did. So that's one explanation. The other explanation is, like you said, some people go into these brain retraining programs or other programs, and they're doing it with a fight and flight response of like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this or I can't heal. And that sympathetic drive can sometimes also induce the sympathetic response as well. So with you, it's hard to say which one. It might have been a combination of both, but either way, Regulate is a process that teaches you how to move through that activation state as you go into your healing process.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope that makes sense. That question she just
Absolutely.
asked is crucial for you guys to understand. It's something that I teach about right away in the first few modules, because a lot of you will come in, you'll start exercising your nervous system, you'll have all sorts of responses. You'll have suppressed emotions that bubble up. You'll have changes in your biochemistry that trigger you into fear. You might have an activation of your immune system as you start to engage your nervous system properly. So you might feel sick. And it's not that you're getting worse. You might be getting better, but you need to understand the science of nervous system regulation to handle that spike. Make sense?
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah, good question. I see a bunch of people who just popped in. Just so you know, we've already been going an hour at this, so you might be an hour off if you thought the thing just started. I want to speak to a couple more questions in the chat box. Unless anyone has a burning question they want to answer, I'll start going through the chat box. All right. Okay, someone says, thank you for that understanding of the sympathetic nervous system spike. It helps me understand my hyperactive response. Yeah, it's super important. Okay, I see, Carlos, you had an interesting post on the forum already, so I already know who you are. And yes, so how do you manage navigating the benzodiazepine withdrawal? I know a lot about that. I went through that myself. It was a very difficult experience. So I just want to say that that can be tricky. But you ask, would the goal be to sink into primal trust and potentially feel the withdrawal and connect with the chi field or the field of the fifth dimensional awareness, which seems to be kind of blocked to access, and not sure if it's the medication or if it's just the limbic dysregulation? It's such a good question. We actually have a whole process we teach about benzodiazepine withdrawal inside of the community. And this is what I'll say. With a benzo withdrawal, benzodiazepines like Xanax or whatever, Ativan, whatever you've been taking, in my experience, this is going to get a little into the woo-woo field, But I feel like the benzodiazepine kind of hijacks our third chakra, our sense of personal power. It's like a pseudo sense of power. We take these medications, it gives us a sense of control, and it calms us down. Well, our control centers then start to get a little bit warped, meaning this medication is what makes us feel in control rather than just this innate trust in the will of the universe. At least that's how it was for me. And I found that to get off benzodiazepines, it is a quantum leap to restore your sense of control into the flow of the universe. And it's going to feel like annihilation at first. But what you're doing is you're regaining your connection, your third chakra connection, your solar connection to source that was somewhat hijacked with this medication, in my opinion. I'm sure doctors right now will be like, what the hell are you talking about? But this is how it was for me. So your question is, yeah, it is like sinking into primal trust. Primal trust is the frequency of the Schumann's resonance. It's the Earth's resonance. It's actually our third chakra and fourth chakra. It's connecting back into that. And even though you might not be able to access that because you've been on a medication, it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means that your brain state isn't aware of that innate sense of safety, that sense of source that's guiding your life. It is there. I remember for me at like my final withdrawal, I went through this sense of like free falling, like almost like free falling into annihilation. And I landed in the soft field of being held. And I found a sense of connection again. And I had to slowly continue to build it from there. The other thing I did to get off a benzo withdrawal, actually, my dear friend is here who helped me with it, Shirley Morgan, is I did a lot of work with Byron Katie, inquiry work. And I really worked on like constantly, like, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is what's going through my head true right now? So I did a lot of inquiry work to help prepare my brain state to handle all of these crazy thoughts that were going through me as I was going through the benzodiazepine withdrawal. And I do incorporate a lot of that into regulate these concepts of how do you restore trust when you've lost trust in yourself. And when our biochemistry has now learned to depend on this pill for a sense of control and a sense of trust. It does take a bit of top-down work, which is inquiry, brain retraining. It also takes some bottom-up work, which is somatic practices, vagus nerve toning. So it's not just sink into trust. You're going to have to grow the strength of your nervous system to be present with the side effects of the withdrawal process. And it's not usually quick and easy. It can take months. It took me, honestly, 6 months to handle getting off the benzodiazepine. But we do have a great recorded course in the community on that and a lot of support, people who've went through it. So it's a really good question. I hope that answered your question, Carlos. Yeah. Okay, awesome. What was another question on that? Will this program create a strong baseline to calm off tapering medications? I hope so. That's the goal. It's the goal to give you that foundation of what I call primal trust, or your own capacity to hold steady in the storm inside of your body, hold steady in the storm of life, and to be able to come back to calm. Nervous system regulation and primal trust isn't about not getting stressed out. I still get stressed out. I still get, these bouts of like, oh my gosh, it's about coming back to calm. It's the ability to come back home to yourself, the ability to be able to sleep at night, even though you've had a stressful day. So that's what we're working on with Primal Trust. Let's see here. Any other questions in the chat box? If you can't sign up for a month, is that a problem? No, it's not a problem. However, what I would say is I am doing the live Q&As kind of in order. So a month from now, I'll probably be on, module 3 or 4. I'll still answer questions about the other modules, but, just know that as far as my live Q&A, it's kind of going to be sequential starting November 1st next week. I'll probably spend 2 weeks per module. So, but there'll be other people that'll join late. I know a lot of people are just waiting to hear what other people think before they join. So it's totally fine. Okay, any other questions in the chat box? Again, I'm here to help with anything you might want to know about. Anything that's been confusing in the process. Yes, all the live Q&As will be recorded and they're available in my level 1 recording section inside of Primal Trust. So don't worry, you won't miss out on those. I hope this helps make sense. I really want to bring a different reason for doing these tools. A lot of you go from course to course, program to program, learning one tool after another, wanting this tool to fix you. I know I did. And it's just not that way. That's just not the journey. These tools they're great, they're wonderful, but ultimately it's about rediscovering a different conscious perspective on your body, on life itself. Our bodies are going to continue to grow older. They're going to have issues. You can't, micromanage and control every little thing, but you can learn how to consciously react to your body differently. You can learn how to consciously react to life differently. You can learn how to, use these strategies to handle what's happening. And the irony is that our symptoms usually do improve because we are running more of the biochemistry of safety through our nervous system more of the time. Here's a good question. I love answering this one. If I've done genetic testing and been told that there are genes that make me susceptible to mold, anxiety, MCAS, etc., can calming the stress response still help the symptoms despite this? If you haven't read the book, The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton, you should do so. I was somebody who was a victim of my genes for many years. And while I might have genes that are more, quote, susceptible, what I do know is that the expression of my genes was highly dependent on how I reacted to my environment and how I perceived my reality. Meaning there are these amazing little proteins all over the tops of your genes that are giving instructions to your genes. So you might have the gene for mold or the gene for gluten or the gene for this and that, but these proteins are taking in everything that's happening to your nervous system. And depending on that state, these proteins switch on and off different genes in your genome. That's why we have a science known as epigenetics. That's why maybe for years you could live around mold or you could eat gluten, and then one day you couldn't. Well, you had the same genes your whole life, so it can't be your genes, right? It's the expression of your genes. You're not a victim to your genes. Many people have the genes for mold. I do. I don't love living in mold, but I had to live in mold for many years, and I still slowly improved and got my function back. Good question. Any other questions? What about if one has high porphyrins in your blood, which blocks one or more enzymes in your hem production, Look, your job, you can't control everything in your body. You just can't, but you can control your nervous system response. So if this is something that requires treatment, if this is something that builds up in toxic metabolites, your capacity to detoxify metabolites is mostly dependent on the state of your nervous system. There might be genetic things that build and add, and there might be treatments you have to get. I'm not a purist to say, oh, you don't need to do anything. But what I know is that the way our cells, the way our mitochondria, all the way down to the mitochondrial level operate with its instructions of detoxification are this: am I safe to let go? Okay, I feel safe and secure. I can let go of the toxins in this cell. Or is there stress, and do I need to hunker down and protect and build a barrier around my cells? And what happens is we end up building toxins up. Toxins start building up over time because we're in protection mode. I do know that nervous system regulation will help with whatever these things you have going on. I'm not saying it's an end all be all cure, but it's definitely something that you're not going to lose out by doing it.
No.
Yeah, good question, Lisa.
Thank you. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any advice on balancing through the program and medical treatments when the medical system doesn't see the mind-body connection? Well, your job is to see the mind-body connection. That's your job. Your doctors, let them be the expertise of what they are. And if you need some treatment, let them be the expertise. But your job is to know, you know what, my nervous system right now is maybe not in a state to add another treatment at this time. I want to calm down, and then I'll add that piece. So you're going to have to become your own coach and your own self-healer. And you're going to have to recognize that at some point your doctor works for you. You're hiring your doctor for his advice. And you can also say, here's what I'd like. And as you get educated through Regulate of, actually, Dr. So-and-so, I would like to, I'm in a lot of stress right now. And if I'm taking this thing that could potentially cause more stress, I think maybe let me just focus on de-stressing for a week or two, and then I can try this protocol. So you advocate for yourself. You learn the science, you explain that to your doctor, and then you can partner with them a little bit better, but just don't put the power in their hands, because, you know, that's just not going to serve you in the long run. Okay, I'm getting tired. I've been on for an hour and 15. I hope this helps. You guys can always email us with any questions. Also on Instagram, I'm on Instagram at Primal Trust Dr. Cat. You can ask me questions there as well. We have free discovery calls with my ambassadors, so you can ask them questions and get on a call there. All of my mentors have free discovery calls, so if you join and you have more questions, I mean, we're here to help you get your questions answered. I hope to see you guys all inside Regulate, and I really think you won't be disappointed. So thanks for joining me today. Bye, everybody.